Welcome back to a guide video, guys. We are going to talk about Vanquish. So today, deck that has recently been added to Master Duel with full power mode, so we are missing no cards here. It is a very expensive deck and you can still invest in it if you want to. Today I want to show you how you can play this deck. We will at first, as we basically always do, talk about every single card in the deck and talk about what they are doing, and then we will look at a replay I have for you where I will basically explain to you what you want to achieve in every turn with this deck, because this is definitely not a combo deck. This is a mid-range deck if there ever was one. So the purpose of this deck is to get advantages through time, to get more advantage than the opponent, card advantage, that is by using the effects of for example the Caesar Valius, the Heavy Borger, or cards like the Raisin over and over again, and generate even a more advantage over time. Or you also have the option to use cards like your Tikaboo to basically knock your opponent out from playing the game. But that's the goal of this deck, is to outvalue your opponent and then being able to kill him in the long run. Obviously long run, it's not that long. You are also definitely able to take this deck, go second, and then just kill your opponent with damage. But keep in mind, this is not a combo deck, this is a mid-range deck. So when you see the combos that we are doing on turn one, don't be confused. This deck also plays a lot on your opponent's turn. This deck also has the mechanic, or works with the mechanic of columns, where you obviously and definitely have to think about where you place your cards, and your opponent should also think about where they are placing their cards. It's a very complex deck. If you ask me, you can learn the basics quite fast, but I think mastering this deck is quite a challenge. At the moment, it seems to be, at least according to our tier list over on Untapped GG, the most successful deck, or one of the most successful decks in Master Duel. Also, the tier list on Master Duel Meta shows us the same stats. So let's just hop right in, and keep in mind that you can definitely play different versions of this deck, so you don't need to play this card for card. I will talk about this when we talk about the cards in general. We are starting off with the Kurikara, which the main thing that we have to at first understand about this deck is that this deck works a lot with the attributes here, being fire, earth, and where is it? Dark. So fire, earth, and dark, these are your important attributes in this deck, and you can see that at the moment there are only fire, earths, and dark in this deck. You could also, for example, play Effect Veilers or Nibiru's if you wanted, and if you think that fits the meta. But keep in mind that in terms of effects, because the cards work with these attributes, nearly every Vanquish Soul card needs these attributes to activate. So attributes in hand, so you need a fire in hand, or a fire and earth, or a fire and a dark. You need them in hand to activate specific effects, but we will talk about this in a moment. That's why, for example, we don't play like a Gamma Seal, which is water, but we play a Kurikara, which is fire. And now we come to the first thing that you can do. If you have more than one Kurikara, then you can definitely play another one. You want around about 10 fire attributes in the deck. This is the most important one, I would say. And then you can get away with playing a little bit less of earth and the dark attribute, but more to that in a moment. Another thing that I want to mention this at this point, you can also play. So you can look at this deck and you might be like, okay, I don't have Tikaboo, so there can be only one. This is an ultra rare, I don't want to craft it. Even though this is very strong in this deck, you don't need to. You could also, for example, say, okay, I want more consistency, so I'm putting in a Small World, right? Because Small World is only a super rare, and Small World is also really nice in this deck, getting you to your main starter play, which is your Vanquish Soul Raisin. But Small World in this deck, as you can see right now, there is none in this deck at the moment. A Small World would also enable you to go into your Kurikara quite easily, because you have a lot of fire monsters, and there always will be bridges that you can take to go and get your Kurikara, which obviously Kurikara are quite nice in breaking your opponent's Kashtira board and breaking the opponent's Pearly, ex-Pearly Noir. At the moment, I'm not seeing a lot of Pearly players on the ladder, and with the hits to Pearly, that will probably be less in the future, so you don't need access to your Kurikara Divine Carnet, but it's quite nice. There are also lists playing too, as I already said, that you can also do. So a lot of different ways in which you can play these lists. We are playing Triple Max C. For one, this is the best card in the game, and for another point, this is an Earth attribute. So this is very funny about this deck. Sometimes your deck strategy and your hand traps are conflicting a bit, because let's say, for example, you have the Maxi in hand, and this is your only Earth attribute in hand. And you need your Earth attribute to activate, for example, the effect of the Caesar Valius, the important one, where you need an Earth, Fire, and a Dark to destroy one other card on the field, non-targeting quick effect. And let's say your Maxi is the only Earth monster you have in hand. It's obviously a conflict because you want to play Maxi, and playing Maxi is definitely the one card that you can play and have the least downside, because Maxi basically replenishes itself. When you play the Maxi and it goes through, then you will draw more cards and you might then draw into another Earth attribute. So, for example, activating your Maxi is way less punishing than, for example, activating an Ash and then not having a Fire attribute, because Ash will not draw you another Fire attribute, but Maxi might, though obviously it's not guaranteed. So this is something that definitely comes up in this deck and that you have to keep in mind. Always look at your hand and think about what attributes do I have in hand, what attributes do I need, because you are able to search them. We will come to that in a moment. And then you have to think about, do I want to activate my Maxi, which in the case of Maxi, the answer is basically always yes. But you also have to think about what you are losing. For example, if the Maxi is your only Earth, then you might not be able to activate your Caesar Valius effect to destroy a card. So always keep that in mind. Same thing with the Shifter, with the Bestials, and with the Ash. These are cards that you will use and that are gone then from your hand. So you always have to keep in mind how important are the different attributes that you have in your hand right now. So we are playing Maxi, we are playing Triple Ash. It's a Fire attribute and it's an Ash, so no further questions there. We are playing Kashtira Rysart. I think the main reason why you want to play Kashtira Rysart, you don't need to play it. You could also play only the two Fenrirs, but I think Fenrir is a card that you need to play because it's one of the best Earth monsters that you can play. And the Fenrir is also able to search you the Rysart, which this is nice because you might need a Fire attribute in hand, and then you can use your Kashtira Fenrir to not search another Fenrir, but to search a Kashtira Rysart. Quick point when it comes to the Pressure Planet Ravesoft, this is definitely not a must in here, so if you don't have it, you don't need it. You could go without the Pressure Planet Ravesoft and the Rysart, though I think two Fenrirs and a Rysart is really nice, giving you the opportunity, as I just said, to search your Rysart, right? So the Planet Ravesoft, not needed, but obviously you can use it to maybe bait an Ash or to search a Fenrir, which Fenrir is just an amazing card overall. And then we also have some stuff in the extra deck here that can help with that, but we will talk about this when we come to that point. The first real card that we have to talk about, because this is the first Vanquish Soul card, is Raisin, our main starter. And if you ask me, I really love the artwork of these cards. That's, in my opinion, one of the main selling points for this. It's a level 4 Fire Warrior effect monster, and this reads, by the way, the reason why we can play cards like there can only be one is because the Vanquish Soul cards have different types. This is a Warrior, this, for example, is a Fiend, this one is a Worm. What else do we have? We have a Machine, we have a Dragon, and then Rock of the Vanquisher is a Rock. So they all have different types. That's why Tikaboo works in this deck, and Every floodgate that you can play can basically auto-win you a game. If you might have already experienced that when your opponent plays a skill drain against you. Sometimes he flips a skill drain and you know, I cannot out this card and it's just game, especially on the ladder because obviously there's no side deck. So I would definitely say if you have them or you want to really intensively play this deck, I would say craft these because they are really nice in this deck and they auto-win you games. This you always have to keep in mind because not every deck can destroy them and not every deck can play under them. The least decks can play under them is the better wording, I would say. So we have Vanquish Soul Raisin 1A to 150, which is quite a lot. We have 4 stars Warrior effect. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add one non-warrior Vanquish Soul monster from your deck to your hand. So basically everyone but the Raisin. And then quick effect. And what the text that comes now is basically a text that you can find on every Vanquish Soul monster, but the attributes that they need to reveal for the effect to activate and the effect that will activate differ from card to card, but we will go over all of them. Quick effect, you can activate one of these effects by revealing monster or monsters in your hand with the listed attributes. If you activate this and you reveal only a fire, this card cannot be destroyed by card effects this turn. And if you reveal fire and dark, destroy all other monsters in this card's column, your own and your opponent's. So column, every monster gets destroyed. If there is a link column and there is a monster under the link monster, this will also be destroyed. You can only use each effect of Vanquish Soul Raisin once per turn and cannot activate more than one in the same chain. This is not super important with the chain, but it can come up at moments. Just keep in mind you can activate both of them, but not in the same chain. We have fire and dark. So you should definitely be aware of, and this is something that you should learn over time, which attributes you need for your specific Vanquish Soul monsters. The important effect on this card is obviously the fire, dark, destroy all other monsters in this card's column. You will also be able to summon this on your opponent's turn into a column that your opponent summons an important monster in, but we will talk about this when we come to our Link 1 monster in the extra deck. So this is our Raisin, this is our main starter that normally, if your hand basically enables this play, will search your Vanquish Soul G-Along, which is one of the newly added cards. But obviously you can also search your Caesar Valius, which is basically your boss monster if you want to like say it like this. You could also search your Heavy Borger. This depends, but in most cases, if your hand is able to do that, and we will talk about what I'm talking about when I show you the combo, you will search your G along. Then we have the one Vanquish Soul Pantera. You could run two. I will craft, as you can see, I don't have two Caesar Values, and you don't need two Caesar Values, though I think this is a really insane card. And it's nice having two of these. Also, Earth is definitely the attribute that you have the least cards of in this deck. So if you don't want to run two Caesar Values, then you might run two Soul Pantera because Earth attribute. That being said, this is definitely the worst Vanquish Soul a single level 4 monster, or let's say the worst Vanquish Soul monster of all of them. So you have to definitely think about whether we want to run this card instead of another Caesar Values. But you have to think about how much you want to craft, I guess. We have a level 4 monster, 1/7, 1/9, so nice stats. Stat-wise, they are all quite okay. If you control no monsters in your main monster zone, you can special summon this card from your hand. This is nice, but this also conflicts with your Fenrir, and obviously you want a Fenrir instead of a Soul Pantera. And then, once again, like we saw on the Raisin quick effect, you can activate one of these effects by revealing monsters in your hand with the listed attributes. An Earth, this card cannot be destroyed by battle this turn, so the Raisin could not be destroyed by card effects this turn. And then you can reveal Earth, Fire, destroy all spells and traps in this card's column. So this is basically the same as the Raisin, but for spells and traps. But obviously, a Raisin being able to search you something is way better than Pantera being able to special summon itself and not search anything, right? And then you have also the problem that this needs Earth as an activation condition, and as I already said, Earth is the attribute that you have the least of in the deck normally. Obviously, you can build your deck different so you have more Earths, but that's generally how these lists are constructed. Then we have your Vanquish Soul Dr. Madlove. This name is just crazy. We have 1/2 attack and 2000 defense, 4 stars. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can add 1 Vanquish Soul spell and trap from your deck to your hand. So Raisin was your monster searcher. This is your spell and trap searcher. Definitely nice, but not as good as Raisin. And then quick effect, you know the drill. You can activate one of these effects by revealing monsters with listed attributes. Dark, 1 face a monster your opponent controls, loses 500 attack and defense, which these 1 attribute effects can come up, and I will talk about a specific scenario in which they can be important, though obviously sometimes you just need to activate this to run over an opponent's monster, and that's also fine. And Dark and Earth return, so you need to reveal both here. Return 1 monster with the lowest defense on the field to the hand, your choice if tied, which this is definitely a nice effect. I think this is an effect that does not come up that often, but you definitely should keep in mind when you play this deck, because this can be very strong. And then this has the same, basically the same limitation as has the Raisin. Then we have the new card, this came out with all the other cards, but this is a newer one, Vanquish Soul G-Along, 5 stars, so we cannot normal summon this. The stats are really nice, 2/4 and 2/1, that's quite strong. Worm effect, if you reveal a card in your hand to activate a Vanquish Soul card or effect, except during the damage step, not unimportant here, you can special summon this card from your hand. And this is the point where in your basic combo, if you want to call this, these little effects come in handy, because if you use your Vanquish Soul Raisin, for example, to search your G along, then you have a fire in hand, right? And then you can activate the fire effect of Vanquish Soul Raisin. This card cannot be destroyed by card effects this turn, because obviously if you go on your first turn, you don't need your second effect here, because you cannot destroy anything because it's your first turn. Your opponent doesn't have any monsters normally. So you can fire, this card cannot be destroyed by card effects this turn, and then you will trigger your trigger effect of your G along, because Let's read it again. Because you revealed a card in your hand, the Geolong, to activate a Vanquish Soul card or effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. So this little combo gives you the opportunity to special summon your Geolong. And then Geolong says, quick effect, you can activate one of these, and you know the drill. Fire, change the battle position of one monster on the field, this is definitely one of the best one attribute effect on one of these cards, though there is a better one that we will come to next. And then this is the more important one, 2 fire, add 1 Vanquish Soul card from your deck to your hand except Vanquish Soul Geolong. And always keep in mind that this is a quick effect, so if you get the Geolong out on your turn, you can activate this to get a Vanquish Soul card, any card by the way, monster or spells and traps, besides itself, and then you can also do it in your opponent's draw phase again. And I will show you in the replay why this is important and how you can use this. I wanted to say abuse this, but that's definitely not the right word. And then we have this limitation, as we have seen on Raisin and Dr. Madlove. Then we have 2 shifters here, which this is a dark attribute, and every deck that can play shifter should play shifter, because shifter gives so many decks such a hard time. And once Kashtira is basically, so there are no limitations to Kashtira, and Kashtira is not on the ban list because it does not need to be honest. But the less people play that do play Kashtira, the better this card will become, because obviously against Kash this is not a really nice card, but against nearly every other deck this is really impactful, and your deck doesn't really suffer from it that much. There's only basically 1 or 2 interactions that are a bit bad for you, but this is definitely okay. But oftentimes, at least in my opinion, when I play Vanquish Soul, this card basically gets stuck in my hand, which is also fine because this is a dark attribute, and then you always have a dark attribute available, so that's not even bad. This is also a nice thing. Normally when you cannot play a shifter and your graveyard has already a card in it, then shifter is basically really a dead card. You can obviously discard it for something, but in this case you have a dark monster in your hand at all times, so you can more freely, for example, use your Bestials, and then you just use them, get them out of your hand, and you still have the dark attribute of the shifter that you can use. Then we have the Bestials. I don't think that I have to say anything when it comes to them. The only not really, right? Okay, so Bestials, we have the Bestials. I forget what I wanted to say here. Then we have Kashtira Fanny, which I talked about. This is an Earth and just a really strong card in general. And then we have Vanquish Soul Heavy Borger, level 7, 2/5, 1/5 during the main phase, quick effect. And now we will see 2 of the more important Vanquish Soul cards, because they have a specific effect that the other ones do not have, and that's the tag out effect. So if you're not familiar with this, the whole Vanquish Soul archetype relies a bit on video gaming. As you can see here, Vanquish Soul continue. So the idea is basically you have died with your character. Do you want to try again? Continue? Question mark. And the whole idea of this is that you are able to tag out one of your fighters and put in another fighter. And this is why what these cards, Heavy Borger and the Caesar Valius, are basically representing. But let's read them, and then this gets more clear. During the main phase, yours and your opponent's quick effect, you can target one non-machine Vanquish Soul monster. So not this one, but every other one. Return it to the hand, and if you do, special summon this card from your hand. So this card is also able to be special summoned from the hand, same as the Geolong, but this also gets you one of the other Vanquish Souls back to hand, which this can be very important. You can dodge infinite impermanences, you can dodge effect veilers, you can dodge a Kashtira Fenrir, which targets, I don't know, let's say the Kashtira Fenrir targets your Raisin and you have the Borger in hand, then you can use your Borger to dodge this and get your Raisin back to hand, which this is really, really impactful and really strong. So always keep in mind that you have at every turn you have 2 opportunities to do this if you have both of these in hand, right? So that's definitely a thing that you have to think about. If you can, you should have a Borger and a Caesar Valius in hand, because this gives you 2 opportunities to dodge opponent's destruction or targeting effects each turn, if you can. And then the Heavy Borger also has the effect you can activate one of these, revealing. We have the Dark, which is draw a card, which this is definitely the strongest one attribute thing that you have. You can reveal a Dark and then draw a card. You can do it on your turn and then again in the draw phase of your opponent. And then Earth and Fire inflict 1/5 damage to your opponent, which normally life damage is not that big in this game, but this is because 3000 damage, because you can activate it on your end phase and then once again on your opponent's draw phase. That is quite a lot, so you don't even need to put 8000 damage on the board. 5000 would be enough, and then you can just, by revealing an Earth and a Fire, inflict 1/5 damage to your opponent once on your end turn and then once again on your opponent's draw phase, which then the game is just over. Or you can just use it in the grind game. You only have to activate this basically, let's say 4 times to do 6000 damage, and then in the process of you doing that 4 times, you should have been able to inflict another 2000 by attacking your opponent, for example. So this is definitely a strong effect. Do not like discard this effect and think, okay, I will always draw 1 card because it's always better. It's not. This is a very nice finisher, especially because the Heavy Borger himself has 2/5 attacks. So Heavy Borger being able to attack into your opponent's face and then just activate this 2 times, this is already a 5/5 damage, which is quite a lot. Heavy Borger. And then we have the boss monster, Caesar Valius, with the animation, which this is really cool. The animation is really cool. Dragon effect 3000 1/5. During the main phase quick effect, you can target 1 non-dragon, so not himself. Vanquish the monster you control, return it to the hand. And if you do special summon this card from your hand, so same as with the Borger, these are our 2 bounces, if you want to call it that. And then a quick effect, and also keep in mind, this is also something that you definitely have to think about. This is not only so the bounce effect of the Borger and the Caesar Valius. It's not only you dodging your opponent's targeting moves, it's also, let's for example say you have an earth in hand and you have a dark in hand and you are missing the fire attribute, but you have a raisin on the field. And then you can just use your Caesar Valius, which for his second effect that we read in a moment, needs all 3 attributes. You can bounce this back to your hand and then you would have all 3 attributes. So this is not only dodging, this is also getting your attributes back into the hand. And obviously this is also getting, I don't know, a raisin surge effect back into the hand, so you can use it again on your next turn. And this is something that's really nice about this deck, and this is where this deck gets complex, because this deck is not only like play strong monsters, make a Baron de Fleur, make some cool end board, and then negate everything your opponent does, but you really have to think about your plays and what these plays will give you at this turn and also in future turns. You have to think in advance, because you have to think, what do I want to do next turn and which attributes do I want, so how do I get these attributes? Maybe I bounce something, maybe I search something. And that's why I think this deck is really nice. You can reveal an Earth. This face-up card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects this turn, which this is quite nice. This is 3000 attack, so this is kind of a Towers monsters, at least for a round. This is basically the same effect as has Ex Pour Noir, so this can definitely block your opponent's killing blow if it ever comes to that point. And then we can reveal Earth, Fire, and Dark to destroy 1 other card on the field. This is non-targeting, which is really, really strong, so you basically activate this effect, and then your opponent has to say, okay, do I want to change something? He cannot just, for example, I don't know, use the card that you want to destroy, because he cannot see the card that you want to destroy, because you don't have to choose the card before you activate the effect or when you activate the effect, but you then can choose afterwards, and your opponent does not know which card you want to destroy. And also keep in mind, you can do this on your turn and then again on your opponent's turn, or if you have summoned this on your opponent's turn, you destroy something on your opponent's turn, and then on your turn in the draw phase, you can, if you have the same attributes still in hand, once again activate this. And this is how you are generating a lot of advantage over time by strong effects like this destroy effect, the Raisin's destroy effect, or the Borger's draw effect, or the Borger's burn effect, right? The other effects are more, so for example, the effect of the Dr. Madlove, which returns 1 monster with the lowest defense on the field to the hand. This is more of a defense effect, but it can also come up, of course. So these are our Vanquish Soul main deck monsters. We have a Rota to search our Raisin, which is our starter. We have a Pot of Prosperity because it is just insane. This card is super strong. Can search you a Kurikara if you need it, for example. Can search you, if you have your play finished, can search you a Maxi for follow-up. You can search your Raisin if you want it. You can search your Tikaboo if you can find it, or other starters like your Fenrir if you need this, or whatever. And the thing is that we do not really need our extra deck. We definitely need our Rock of the Vanquisher, our Link 1 monster, but the rest is not that important, so you can freely banish whatever you want. Then we have the strongest spell in the deck, which is an insane card, Stake Your Soul. You definitely need 3 of this if you were wondering about the ultra attacking here. It says, reveal 1 monster in your hand, special summon 1 Vanquish Soul monster with the same attribute, but a different name from your deck, but return it to the hand during the end phase. Keep that in mind, keep this returning to the hand effect in mind, but this might seem like a disadvantage, but in most cases it's an advantage, right? Because you want to have them in hand, because you can then resummon them or you can reuse them and you have their attribute in hand once again. So the main thing that you want to use this for is to reveal a fire, which we have a lot of here. We have Kurikara, we have Triple Ash, we have Triple Gialong. We have the raisins themselves, obviously. So if you have a raisin, we don't need to use the Stake Your Soul. We have the rice heart. You want to get to your raisin, which you can special summon, then you can search. What you could do, for example, normally, as I already said, you search your Geolong, but you could also special summon the raisin, search your Mad Love, and you have a normal summon left, or your Pantera if you want to, and then you can use, for example, the Mad Love to search also a trap and a spell. But yeah, there are different options that you can choose. And keep in mind, you can also reveal an Earth or a Dark to get the other things. So this is basically, depending on your hand, of course, able to search your every Vanquish Soul monster in your deck, depending on the hand, of course. If you don't have the attribute, then you can search. Then there's definitely something that I would call a flex spot. Here you could go for a small wit if you wanted to. The Infernoble Arns Durandal is able to search your raisin. This is another Rota if you want to, but not really, because you need to equip this to a monster. So that's definitely a problem. So let's say your opponent goes first turn, and then obviously you can equip this to your opponent's monsters. That's not the problem. But if you go first, then you first have to normal summon something if you don't have anything. So let's say you normal summon your Vanquish Soul Dr. Madlove, and then you go Durandal, then you get your Raisin, then you cannot normal summon your Raisin because you have already normal summoned, which it's fine because we have our Link 1, which we will talk about in a moment. But that's why I think the Durandal is definitely something that can be changed out, though it's a rare. So if you want to go for a low rarity version of this, then you can definitely use the Durandal. I would not play more than one though. We have the Planet Ravesoft that I already talked about. You can play this, but you don't need to. And then we have one of the quick play spells, Vanquish Soul Dust Devil. Quick play spell. Target one Vanquish Soul monster you control, change its battle position, and then you can change face monsters your opponent controls to face down position up to the number of Vanquish Soul monsters you control with different names. So this is basically a Book of Moon, but you need Vanquish Soul on the field and then Vanquish Soul names. So normally you will be able to book like 1 or 2 of your opponent's monsters, but you might also have more than 2 Vanquish Soul monsters on the field. This is quite nice. This is a quick react spell. You can search this, but the real killer spell in this deck is the Snow Devil, which we'll read in a moment. Then we have Vanquish Soul Continue, quick play spell, which this is nice for a monster reborn. Pay 500, then target one Vanquish Soul monster in your graveyard, either add it to your hand or special summon it in defense position. Quite nice. We can add it, we can special summon it. It's also a quick play spell. This is really cool, a really cool extender. We can also use this on our opponent's turn. Let's say our opponent kills, I don't know, our Caesar Valius, or our Caesar Valius is already engraved. We summon him, and then we might be able to use the Earth, Fire, Dark, Destroy one on the field, for example. And then we have the thing that we definitely want to search. We will normally search this via our Geolong. This is part of our main combo line, if you want to call it that. We go Raisin, we search the Geolong, we activate Raisin's fire effect to special summon the Geolong. And then we get our Raisin back to the hand with the Rock of the Vanquisher. Then we have at least the Raisin in hand, because remember, this needs 2 fire to activate this. And then normally you will always have another fire in hand. Then you can activate this. We can search the trap. We can set the trap, pass over to our opponent. I will also show this in a replay, but just quickly. And then on our opponent's draw phase, we can once again, because quick effect, activate this here, and then search the remaining attribute that we are still missing. So for example, we have the Raisin. This one we already talked about. We have another fire like the Ash. Maybe we have a Max C, but we are missing the Dark. So we then can use our Geolong to search, I don't know, one of the Bestials, for example, or maybe the Dr. Madlove. And then we are able to activate our strongest trap card. So Vanquish Snow Devil, which is also a new card that came together with the Geolong. Reveal up to 1 of each Dark, Earth, and Fire monsters in your hand. Apply the following effects in sequence based on the number revealed. So you can only reveal a Dark, you can reveal Dark and Earth, and Fire. Also, if you have all of these, you can then still choose to only show them 1, or show them 2, or maybe show them 3, depending on what you want to do. If you show them 1 of these, then, and what this in sequence thing means is that if you show them 3, then at first the first effect will happen, then the second, then the third, always in this sequence, right? So if you show them 1, inflict 400 damage to your opponent, then you can special summon 1 Vanquish Soul monster from your hand. Quite nice. As you can see, we will inflict 600 and then 800, which once again is 1800, and keep the Borger effect in mind. So this can really stack up fast. And this can also be used to kill your opponent if he only has 8 life points left. Keep that in mind. And then if we have reveal 2, we can then again inflict 600. So this adds up. Not only 400, we will then deal 1000 damage to your opponent. Also this turn, Vanquish Soul monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. Quite nice. This is also nice because you have a special one with the effect from before. Though you don't have to special, you can also inflict the damage and then not special if you want to. And then this is the most important one, inflict 800 damage to your opponent, then you can destroy all monsters on the field. But keep in mind, because we have activated this before, this will not destroy our Vanquish Soul monsters because they cannot be destroyed by card effects this turn. So we can clear the entire board but keep our part of the board, minus of course cards like the Fenrir and also the Rock of the Vanquisher. Even though this is a Vanquish Soul card, it's not called Vanquish Soul, and so it's not protected by the Snow Devil, so we will destroy this, but that's okay. This we can use to clear the entire board, and normally a turn 1 we want to get this on our field because this is quite strong. And then we have 2 Tikabos that can only be 1, which I already talked about the fact that they are all different types here, so this works quite well. Obviously you cannot play, I don't know, 2 Fenrirs or 2 Bestials because they are also dragons. Also keep in mind, Bestials and these are also dragons, so there are some conflicts here, but not really that much. There's also I was under the impression that Maxi is a rock, but obviously it's an insect. Okay. Let's come to the extra deck. This is not super special here. We have Abyss Dweller for your Telement matchup if you want. This can definitely be changed out, as can a lot of these extra deck parts here. You don't need these ultra rares here. There is the Evil Storm Extinction, which can clear the field with 2 level 4 monsters, which you have a lot of, so that's quite nice. You can also go into your Chakanine, Borbo, and then Trident line with 2 level 4 monsters, but you can also just go for your Borbo, attack directly, and then make a Zeus if you want to. This is why this is in here, so you don't need this ultra rare part here. You could also put this out. We have a Baguska, which I think this is cool. With 2 level 4 monsters, we can basically stall 4 turns if we need to draw more cards. We have number 11 Big Eye. We can use the Kashyyyr Riser together with a Fenrir or 2 Fenrirs to go into a Big Eye. Same thing with the Dark Armed here. This can also be swapped out. I would definitely go and play a Kashyyyr Riser because, though this also depends on how many Kashyyyr opponents you face. Because I think if your opponent plays Kashyyyr and at the moment there are not a lot of people playing Kashyyyr, then they will pretty freely activate their Shangri-Ira effects, and this might enable you to go for a Fenrir plus a Rysart if your opponent has activated Shangri-Ira on your turn, because keep in mind, this needs an activated effect of Shangri-Ira, but this also counts if your opponent activates a Shangri-Ira. Then we have a Zeus. This is mandatory, but this is one of the best cards from the extra deck, so craft it if you don't have it already. Then we have a Phoenix and a Unicorn here, which, yeah, you sometimes would use them. I think the Unicorn is more important than it's the Phoenix. You could also go for a Cerberus and just put out, I don't know, the Extinction or the Dweller here, because who is playing Telemets at the moment? And then we have the most important extra deck card, a Rock of the Vanquisher. Link 1 Vanquish Soul monster. You can make it with every Vanquish Soul monster. Cannot be used as link material, which is okay. While you control a Vanquish Soul monster, your opponent monsters can only target monsters you control with the highest attack, their choice if tied for attacks. So this one is basically with his 0 attack protected from being destroyed, which this is quite nice. And then during the main phase, keep that in mind, this is only during the main phase, your main phase and your opponent's, by the way, because quick effect, you can activate one of these effects. Special summon 1 Vanquish Soul monster from your hand, or you can add 1 Vanquish Soul monster from your grave to your hand. This is part of our base combo that I've just talked about. We go play the Raisin, we search the Geolong, then we activate the Raisin to special summon the Geolong, then we go for our Link 1 Rock of the Vanquisher with the Raisins in the grave, and then we can re-add the Raisin to the hand with the Rock. On your opponent's turn, you normally want to special summon 1 Vanquish Soul monster from your hand, and this is where the columns come in handy, because what you can do, let's say you have done what I've just told you, you have added back the Vanquish Soul Raisin to hand, then you can on your opponent's turn, but we'll look at this in the replay in a moment, then it will get more clear, but you can then just special summon the Raisin into a zone that there is an opponent's monster in, or special summon, for example, the Madlove into a zone where, oh, sorry, not the Madlove, the Pantera into a zone where there is a spell or trap that you want to destroy. Let's say your opponent has set a skill drain, or I don't know, okay, then it wouldn't work. Let's say something else, not a skill drain. I don't know, Swords of Revealing Lights. And then you can activate your Rock of the Vanquisher, summon either your Raisin or your Pantera in the column where there is a card that you want to destroy, and then just destroy them. Obviously, you can also summon your Heavy Borger or your Caesar Valius or your Geolong, but the Pantera and the Raisin are definitely the ones that come in handy with the Rock of the Vanquisher, because the Rock is able to summon them after your opponent has placed something on the field, so you are able to basically summon them in the zone that they need to be summoned in to destroy something, right? But we will look at this in a moment. So this is basically what this archetype tries to achieve. It might be tough to understand how you win the game or what's the main game plan, but we will talk about this in an example replay, and I will tell you what's basically the idea behind this deck. Just keep in mind that if you want to master this deck or learn to play this deck, this will definitely take a bit longer than a standard combo deck where you only need to learn the combo. This one you have to understand a bit deeper. You have to understand how you can generate advantage, either by getting advantage through your cards, by adding stuff, by drawing cards, or you gain advantage by destroying your opponent's cards via your Caesar Valius, or for example Raisin, or your Pantera, or whatever, by sending something back to the hand with the Mad Love. But let's just hop right in. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions concerning this guide or this deck. Let me know in the comments, and we will hop over into the example replay where I will show you what's basically the thing that you want to do on turn 1 and how you can generate advantage, or how you have to think when using this deck. Alrighty, welcome back. We will do this in a slow mode here. So let's first check our hand. We have a Rota, which we can search our Raisin with. We have a Stake, a Soul, which we can special summon our Raisin with. We have a Soul, a Caesar, a Valius. We have our Geolong, and we have Maxi. So we are missing. So that's the first thing that you can check if you want to. We are missing a Dark attribute here, and we also have to keep in mind that we definitely want to use our Maxi. So if we special summon our Caesar Valius, which is also an Earth, and we have used our Maxi, then at the moment we are not able to use this effect, and at the moment we are also not able to use Geolong's second search effect, right? So obviously we are starting with either the Rota or the Stake Your Soul. I think I start with the Rota here just to try to bait an Ash and then search our Raisin, because Raisin is just our best normal summon, and then we can use our Stake, our Soul afterwards. But let's see what happens here. Genau, going for the reinforcement, just maybe to bait an Ash. Okay, I go for the Rysart here because obviously I can get the Raisin with the Stake Your Soul. You can argue about this decision, because if, for example, he lets this go through and then ashes this, then I don't have a play. So going safe would be to add the Raisin with the reinforcement of the army. But the advantage to adding the Rysart is that now we have 2 fires in the hand. So we are already ready to basically go into our main play that we want to do. Next one is Stake Your Soul. We reveal one of the fires. Obviously, we reveal the Rysart because our opponent knows the Rysart and does not know the Geolong, summoning our Raisin here. Activate Raisin's effect. And in this case, I add the Dr. Madlove. This is something I talked about in the guide here. We already have the Geolong, which would normally be the card that you want to search if you have another fire in hand, or if you can get another fire in hand, then you want to search your Geolong. If you cannot get another fire in hand, or you don't have another fire in hand, then you don't need to get your Geolong. Then you can also get, for example, let's say your Heavy Borger if you have a Dark, or maybe your Caesar Valius if you have all the opponent's components in your hand that enable the Caesar Valius effect. So your normal play is getting the Geolong, but if you can't get to a second fire in hand, then you do not need your Geolong, because then you cannot activate the important 2 fire effect, right? So we are searching the Dr. Madlove. We have a normal summon left that we can use for our Madlove then. Now I activate what I talked about. I activate this fire effect. This card cannot be destroyed by card effects this turn. I reveal the Geolong because now I will summon the Geolong, so I can also show it to him. And now, because I've activated effect or revealed the card to activate an effect of a Vanquish Soul monster, I can special summon the Geolong. Now I normal summon the Dr. Madlove here, and we will talk about 1 or 2 things that I definitely did wrong in this replay here. We are going to add the Snow Devil. It doesn't really matter, because normally you want to add a Snow Devil with your Geolong, but now I have 2 searches for basically spells and traps. You could definitely argue I should have gotten a Heavy Borger here, because Heavy Borger would have been able to tag out this Dr. Madlove back to hand, Heavy Borger draw 1 card, and there would be Heavy Borger on the field right now. Though I'm not 100% sure where we'll get with to the end with this, but let's continue the replay. The next thing I want to do, and I talked about this in the deck profile, I go into the Rock and add the Raisin back to hand. Now we have 2 fires in hand, because I think what I will do next is use the Geolong to get the Heavy Borger, and then I think I will do what I just talked about, because getting the Heavy Borger now is the next logical thing. And this is what you want to think about. Yeah, this is this mindset of how do I generate more advantage with this deck, and how do I get, as I talked about in the deck profile, my tech outs to the hand. We already have the Caesar Valius to tech out, and now we are basically missing our heavy borger. We don't need the Pantera, and we have the trap. So the trap is definitely the most important factor. So we searched this with our Dr. Matlov and would normally search this with our Gialong. So if you don't have the Matlov search like we did here, now at this point you would search the trap, but we have it already, so we are going to search our heavy borger here. Now we can use the heavy borger on our turn to tech out the Matlov and draw a card. You could also, because we have Earth and Fire, could also inflict 1/5 damage, but at this point it does not really make sense. So we have drawn a card, and as you can see right here, we have drawn a Tikaboo, really nice. We have our trap, and remember, to activate the trap's most strongest effect, we need an Earth, a Fire, and a Dark, which we have all of them, but we still have this problem in hand that we want to play our Caesar Valius at some point, and he needs to reveal an Earth, Fire, and Dark, and our Earth is Max C, which this is what I talked about in the beginning. We want to use the Max C, obviously. And I mean, we can obviously wait to use the Caesar Valius after we have used the trap, because trap also needs all 3 attributes, so we can show him the Caesar Valius, a Fire, and the Dark, and then we at least have activated the trap, because we will activate the Max C, and then we can activate the Caesar Valius afterwards. But always keep in mind that we can search a second time with our Gialong next turn here in the draw phase of our opponent, and so we can get another Earth to the hand, so this enables us to then throw our Max C. We set 2 cards here, and here's one thing I definitely did wrong. Always keep this column thing in mind, right? Because what your opponent can do to most effectively play around your place is to obviously play their most important monsters in a zone where there is already a monster in. So if, for example, I play, or he plays his Kashtira Unicorn here in the heavy borger zone, then on my turn, or on his turn, I can use the Rock of the Vanquisher to special summon the Raisin, but I cannot use this stone because there's already the borger in. What I could obviously do, but that's not optimal, is I could use my Caesar Valius to get rid of the borger back to hand, play the Caesar Valius in another zone, and then this zone is once again free, right? But what I should have done here is place one of these under the Rock of the Vanquisher, because at this point he can just place this here. Oh, does it make a difference? Oh, it actually does not make a difference. Forget what I'm saying here. In this case, it doesn't make a difference. But this is our end board. We have the trap, the Snow Devil here. We have our Tikaboo, which is quite strong. And because we can search on our opponent's draw phase again, we basically have the free opportunity to play our Max C. So this is a really nice hand. We have everything that we need. We have triple attributes. We have the tech out here. We have, unfortunately, we have one of the tech outs on the field. So in a perfect world, we would want the heavy borger to be in our hand. The advantage is that we can, on our opponent's draw phase, once again draw a card. The disadvantage is that we are missing one of our tech out cards on the hand, so we can only tech out once with the Caesar Valius. So we are going over draw phase here, and now we activate the borger to draw one, showing him the Matlov. We draw a Gialong, not that important, and we activate the Gialong, I think, to get the Pantera. We drop the Max C. Now we are missing the Earth attribute if we want to summon our Caesar Valius. I think we go Pantera here, exactly. Because now we have all the attributes, we can activate this strongest effect, and we can also use our Caesar Valius, summon him, and activate the destruction effect of the Caesar Valius, because we now have the Pantera. And of course, we also have the option to use our Rock. Remember, we can special summon one of our Vanquished Soul monsters, quick effect. We now also have the option to special summon our Pantera if we need to destroy something that our opponent plays. So for example, a Kashtira Birth. If he plays it here, we could use the Pantera and just destroy it, because we can show him an Earth and a Fire in our hand, as you can see right here. And if he, and this is what I talked about, if you play against this deck and you want to play your Kashtira Birth, then just play it in one of the zones where there are already monsters in. This is also a reason why you do not want to place like a lot of monsters on your end board, because I mean, this is already enough, right? 2 is already enough. You don't want to go, and you really can't, but you don't want to go 5 monsters here, because then you have no option to summon your Raisin or your Pantera to destroy something. Let's see what our opponent does here. I think it's Kashtira, I'm not quite sure. So he goes for the Feather Duster here, and I use the opportunity to activate Vanquish Snow Devil, because I think I want to protect my Vanquish Soul monsters from being destroyed. So I show him 2 here. just to use this card, right? And I think we don't summon here. I'm not 100% sure. I think I don't summon at this point. Yeah, as you can see right here, I had the opportunity to summon a Vanquish Soul monster, but I don't want to because I want to keep the spaces and be able to decide afterwards. So if I could have already summoned the Raisin and searched something with the effect, but then my opponent could just play around the Raisin, which in this case he also did. And this is what I talked about. Now I cannot use the Raisin here because there's already something in this zone, which I would love to have used the Raisin. And it could also be the case that I will do right now what I talked about and use the Caesar Valius to get rid of the Borger. And then obviously at this moment I can also use the Caesar Valius to destroy this. Let's see, I think I will do this here. Exactly, get rid of the Borger and just not place it here. Exactly, we will place it here. And now I would also have the opportunity to use the Rock of the Vanquisher to special summon the Raisin here and use the Raisin's column destruction effect to destroy the Unicorn. But as I already have the Caesar or the Soul Caesar Valius on the field, I can also use this one to destroy this, which is, I think, what I will do here. He goes for the extra deck rip, that's fine. I show him all the 3 attributes and we destroy the Unicorn before it can activate its trigger effect to search the Birth or the Kashtira Theosis. He gets rid of one of our rock, which makes sense. And then once again, quite clever of him, he summons this in this zone. And once again, as you can see, I can now not summon a Soul Raisin in here because there is the Caesar Valius. So my opponent definitely knows how to play against this deck. And here's the thing that I just talked about, right? The better play on my part would have been to summon the Raisin in this zone and use the Raisin to destroy the Unicorn. Because then I would now be able to use my Caesar Valius to destroy the Fenrir. And then it would be very unlikely that he has another card. He searches the Scareclaw Kashtira. At this point, I cannot really do something against this. Keep in mind that at this point, we have used the destruction effect of the Caesar Valius. We now still have the Rock of the Vanquisher effect that we can use. And we also still have the effect of the Heavy Borger, which enables us to tag something out. So what I could have also done here, when the Fenrir was summoned, I could have also summoned the Heavy Borger, tagged the Caesar Valius out, and then summoned my Soul Raisin in this zone with the Rock of the Vanquisher. He goes, activates Theosis to get this on the field once again, and obviously now it's very obvious. For some reason he has not summoned this here because then it would have been protected. All the time before he has not played into my strategy, and now he has, which now I will activate the Rock, summon the Raisin here, and the first thing I can do is search something. Because I have activated a monster effect, he obviously can activate Fenrir and decides to banish my Caesar Valius. In my opinion, questionable, he could have also just get rid of the Raisin because now the second effect of Raisin or the limitation of Raisin would have come into handy. You can only use each effect of Vanquish Soul Raisin once per turn and cannot activate more than one in the same chain. So in this case, if he would have used the Fenrir on my Raisin, I would have not used the search effect, but just used the quick effect to destroy the Unicorn. But obviously he's the turn player and he decided first to activate this and target my Caesar, and now I can just activate the search effect, and then afterwards, after we have resolved this chain, I can also activate the other one. And what I can do now, and talked about in the video, he goes Kashtira Fenrir, targets my Soul Caesar Valius, but I also have the Heavy Borger still in hand, which has the tag out effect left, and that's exactly what I will do here. I will tag out the Caesar Valius for the Heavy Borger. Thereby my Caesar Valius will not get banished. We will resolve this chain with the Raisin here, or we would have resolved the chain with the Raisin here, and then I would have been able to use Raisin's second effect to destroy the Kashtira Unicorn. And obviously, let's say the game is over at this point, right? But obviously, let's say he passes over to me, and then once again, I can generate more advantage by using my Heavy Borger by drawing cards. I can then generate more advantage by bouncing my Raisin back to hand with, for example, so the Heavy Borger I just talked about, or with the Caesar Valius, or just get it to the grave and get it back to my hand with the Rock of the Vanquisher, then summon it again, search again, destroy something again. So that's basically what you want to do, right? You want to use the most important and the strongest effect, or if you can, every effect of your Vanquish Soul once per turn effects on every turn, on your turn and on your opponent's turn, to generate advantage on your field and in your hand. and to generate disadvantage on your opponent's field and in your opponent's hands until the point that the advantage, and this might only take one round as in this example here, right? Because obviously I can just kill him next turn, but I have not killed him. I have just generated so much advantage or disrupted him so heavy that he now can no longer play the game. The last thing we will do is hop over into the deck list that I want to show you. And one thing that I have to mention here, I will show you the deck list and show you every card if you want to just build the list that I have talked about all the time, Vanquish Soul here. Obviously, if you do not start with your Raisin, then all of what you can do is quite a bit weaker. So what you just saw here is definitely the best start that you can get, nearly the best start that you can get. You can obviously also whiff, and then you have to decide for different plays. So let's say, for example, you might only be able to normal summon a Dr. Madlove. Maybe you have, I don't know, let's say you have a Dr. Madlove, a Maxi, an Ash, Kurikara, and I don't know, let's say this one, that there can be only one, and the only normal summon is your Dr. Madlove, for example. Then you can just go Dr. Madlove, search your Dust Devil, and then just place your Dust Devil and your Floodgate on the field. And then it's basically about surviving and then maybe finding something on your next turn, because then you can use your Dust Devil and your Madlove to flip something down. Maybe they play Unicorn, you flip it down, and your opponent's turn ends. But obviously, what you have to keep in mind in this example, if you do not have your Vanquish Soul monsters in hand, then obviously you have hand traps in hand. So if you have no engine to play, then you have your hand traps in hand, which normally, because that's the job of a hand trap, should be able to disrupt your opponent and give you another turn where you might be able to, I don't know, draw a Stake Your Soul, draw a Rota, draw a Pot of Prosperity, or something else that will help you in this situation. So, okay, I hope you understood or can understand what this deck is all about. As I already said, this is a deck that you need to play to understand it deeper. This is not only I show you a combo line, Rika or Manadium, and you can just copy this combo line and then have a nice board. This is something you have to learn. This is something you have to take to the field. I think it's important, or this guide is important, to give you the base understanding of this deck and also show you what this deck can do and what this deck cannot do, and also give you a feeling for if you want to invest in this deck, because it's definitely not cheap. You need 3 ultra rare Stake Your Soul, you need at least 1 Caesar Valius, you need 2. Might also be able to get away with 1 Dr. Madlove. You don't need 3. You need 3 Raisin, and yeah. So the engine stuff is quite expensive. But think about it for yourself. Think about whether you want to invest in this. I think this is or seems to be one of the strongest deck right now in the game, to be honest. And I think it will be strong quite a way in the future. So it's a good investment. Keep in mind that there are no new support cards coming, at least as of right now. So there will not be a necessity to invest in this even further. So that's all you have to invest in it, basically. And if there are new strong fire, earth, or dark monsters, you can obviously also quite effectively use them in this deck. So also keep that in mind. And the thing is, in every format where Shifter is good, decks that can play Shifter are also very great. This is also a deck that would have been nice in the Tier Elements format, because this can play the Bestials and play them very effectively. This can play Shifter, which obviously is a reason why Flor and Reese, for example, was good in the Tier format, because the deck can play Shifter, right? So decks that can play Shifter are always decks that will have spots in a lot of different metas, because Shifter is such a disruptive card, even though we only have 2 of them, right? And if you do not own the Shifter, you don't need to play Shifter in here, you don't need to craft it, but this is just a strong hand trap, if you want to call it like that, so you can also do that. Okay, I hope you liked it. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this deck, and now I will obviously go over every card, so you can craft it if you want to. We have 1 Kurikara, we have triple Maxi, we have triple Ash Blossom, 1 Kashtira Rysart, 3 Vanquish Soul Raisin, 1 Vanquish Soul Pantera, 2 Vanquish Soul Dr. Madlove, 3 Vanquish Soul Jia Long, 2 Dimension Shifter, 1 Bestial Magnamoot, 1 Bestial Dru's Worm, 2 Kashtira Fenrir. By the way, if you do not want to craft the Bestials, which you should have them because they are just so strong, but you don't need the Bestials here, but then you have to find a good dark replacement. 2 Kashtira Fenrir, we have 3 Vanquish Soul Heavy Borger, 2 Vanquish Soul Caesar Values, 1 Reinforcement of the Army, 1 Pot of Prosperity. This one, by the way, is free when you play the campaign, so this one you get for free. 3 Stake Your Soul, 1 Infernoble Arms Durandal, 1 Pressured Planet Wavesoft, 1 Vanquish Soul Dust Devil, 1 Vanquish Soul Continue, 1 Vanquish Soul Snow Devil, 2 There Can Only Be 1 Abyss Dweller, 1 Evil Swarm Extinction Knight, 1 Zodiac Trident, Zodiac Borbo, Zodiac Shaken 1 number 41 Baguska, number 11 Big Eye, Dark Armed the Dragon of Annihilation, Kashtira, A-Rise Heart, Divine Arsenal, Zeus. We have 3 Rock of the Vanquisher, Nightmare Phoenix, and Nightmare Unicorn. And that's it for now. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do you have any more questions? Just write them in the comments. I will answer them, or maybe someone from the community. Thanks for being here. If you like my kind of content, please consider subscribing, hitting the thumbs up and the notification bell, and we will see each other in the next one.